Dear friends of Love and Tears, today I want to share with you a story. A story that begins with something so ordinary, a hot morning in a quiet kitchen, a ripe peach, and a woman caught between the life she chose and the life she no longer recognized. But as you'll see, sometimes it only takes a single moment to change everything forever. That morning, the air was thick, clinging to my skin like a second layer. I stood in the kitchen, the low hum of the refrigerator, giving me a strange comfort in the silence. The knife in my hand slid through the peach, its golden juice spilling onto the cutting board, sweet, sticky, alive. I was 34 years old, 7 years into a marriage that on paper looked perfect, stable, kind, predictable. But here's the thing, my friend's predictability can hollow you out. It can make you forget where you end and the world begins. My name is Lauren Harper, and I never imagined I would become the kind of woman who unravels like this. I used to scoff at stories of forbidden desires, so sure I was above it all. But life knows how to creep in through the cracks. It slips past your defenses until you find yourself standing in a moment you cannot undo. My husband David is a good man, the kind who always pays the bills on time, who never forgets to mow the lawn. But he doesn't see me. Not the way I need to be seen. He didn't notice the new dress I wore last month or the nights I lingered by the window, searching for something I couldn't even name. I told myself that was enough. Until Ethan came back. Ethan, David's son from his first marriage. He was just a lanky 15-year-old when I first met him. Quiet, awkward, all elbows and silence. Now he was 22, a senior in college, returning home for the summer. And he wasn't a boy anymore. He had grown tall, broad-shouldered, carrying himself with a quiet confidence that filled the room. His dark hair fell just above his eyes, and his voice, once uncertain, now carried a depth that made my chest tighten when he spoke. That morning, David left for work, kissing me quickly on the cheek. I stayed behind, wearing a thin tank top and cotton shorts, the kind of clothes you only wear when you think you're alone. I hadn't thought twice about it. Hadn't considered how the sunlight framed me. Ethan walked in bleary-eyed, holding a cordless drill. Morning, he mumbled, rubbing sleep from his face. Gonna fix that loose shelf in the guest bathroom. I smiled, grateful for the distraction. Thanks, Ethan. I've been meaning to get to that. We talked about nothing, the weather, his classes, how the neighborhood seemed to shrink year after year. But then, the air shifted. I felt it before I saw it. A silence that stretched thick and heavy, as if the house itself was holding its breath. I caught his reflection in the microwave door behind me. His eyes weren't on my face. They were lower, lingering, unapologetic. My pulse quickened. Fear, curiosity, both. I should have laughed, covered myself, stepped away. But I didn't. I stayed there, slicing the peach, letting the moment burn between us. Then the drill slipped from his hand, clattering loudly against the tile. We both jumped. Sorry, he stammered, cheeks flushed. It just slipped. No worries, I said, my voice far too calm to even. He muttered something about needing a screwdriver and left quickly, his footsteps uneven, almost frantic. And I was alone again, half a peach in my hand, my heart pounding so hard it echoed in my throat, Friends, it wasn't just the awkwardness of that moment. It was what it awakened inside me. Something raw, something reckless. Like a match struck in a room soaked with gasoline. I locked my bedroom door that afternoon and lay on the bed, still in that thin tank top. My hands traced the curve of my body, not for desire, but to remind myself that I was real, that I was alive. Ethan's gaze had seared into me, not like the clumsy stare of a boy, but the knowing look of a man who wanted something forbidden. And God help me. I liked it more than I could admit. I told myself it was a fluke. A fleeting moment I would bury before dinner. But the truth, I didn't want to bury it. I wanted to chase it. That night, dinner was painfully quiet. David rambled on about a new project at work, blissfully unaware of the storm swirling across the table. Ethan barely spoke, his eyes locked on his plate. But when I asked him to pass the salt, our fingers brushed and the air between us crackled. Our eyes met for the briefest second, and in that second, 1,000 words passed between us without sound. Later, I washed dishes in the kitchen, the clinking of plates grounding me in reality. But Ethan stayed in the doorway, silent, unmoving, watching. I didn't turn around. I didn't need to. His presence filled the room, heavy, electric, waiting to break. And in that silence, everything was already too loud. Dear viewers of Love and Tears, tell me, what would you do in that moment? Would you run, cling to safety and bury the spark before it spreads? Or would you take the risk step into the fire and let desire lead you, where it will share your thoughts in the comments below? Because maybe your answer is the key to what happens next. I understand what you're aiming for. You want the next part rewritten in the same style as before. Dramatic, emotional, and tense English language, presented as a story on your channel, Love and Tears, with small moments of direct audience engagement. Keep the length and details intact, but heighten the writing so it's more compelling. Here's your rewritten section. Dear friends of Love and Tears, our story continues the very next morning. And like so many mornings after a storm, I tried to pretend nothing had shifted. I dressed carefully, a plain t-shirt, worn jeans armor, against the memory of yesterday. I told myself it was about normalcy, about control. But normal was a lie. And deep down, I knew it. David was gone all day, swallowed up by a client meeting that would keep him until nightfall. The house was ours. Outside, the heat pressed down like a living thing, the kind that makes your skin itch for release. I heard myself say it before I could stop. Why don't we use the pool? A casual suggestion, nothing more, I told myself. Ethan hesitated, then nodded. And in that small, almost imperceptible movement, a thrill rose in me I couldn't name. I chose my swimsuit deliberately, a teal bikini that hugged my hips and dipped low in front. I told myself it was for me a small rebellion to feel good in my own skin. But we both know better, don't we, friends? When I stepped outside, Ethan was already in the pool, arms stretched along the edge, water sliding off his shoulders in silver lines. His eyes followed me as I walked past, subtle but unmistakable. For the first time in weeks, I felt powerful, wanted, alive. We spoke easily at first. His roommates, his music, the boredom of suburban summers. He laughed more than usual. I found myself smiling back, a real smile I hadn't worn in so long. He offered to grab drinks. I nodded. He returned with 2 cans of seltzer. His fingers brushed mine as he handed one over, and my pulse spiked. We weren't pretending anymore. In the shallow end, his foot brushed mine under the water. I didn't move. I let it stay. I let the contact linger, let the heat build until it felt like electricity. Need sunscreen? He asked later. Voice, casual eyes, anything but. I nodded before I could think. He moved behind me, his hands slow and deliberate, smoothing lotion across my shoulders, then lower, tracing the curve of my spine. His touch was careful, but intimate, like he was learning me by heart. I closed my eyes. My breath came shallow. My skin felt alive under his palms. When he finished, he didn't step back, and I didn't want him to. Later, as I stepped out of the pool, my foot caught the edge of the concrete. I stumbled, a clumsy, ridiculous moment that could have sent me sprawling. Ethan caught me, one arm around my waist, the other gripping my wrist, his body close, his hold strong. For a moment, time froze. My breath ragged, his eyes locked on mine. Chlorine and faint cologne rose from his skin, a scent that made my head spin. He steadied me, then let go, turning quickly away. But the moment clung to the air, heavy and undeniable. Inside, I locked myself in the bathroom, towel wound tight, staring at my reflection. My cheeks flushed, my eyes bright with something I didn't want to name. "What are you doing, Lauren?" I whispered. But the answer was already there, pulsing through my veins. This wasn't a game. This was dangerous. And I was running toward it. By dinner, I had convinced myself to let it go. I texted David, asked if he wanted leftovers saved, tried to anchor myself in routine. But then Ethan walked into the kitchen, shirtless hair still damp from the pool. "Need help with the vegetables?" he asked. I should have said no. Instead, I handed him a knife. We moved around each other like we'd done it forever, but it was different now. His hand grazed my back as he passed. His eyes flicked to my lips mid-sentence. I caught him staring, and he didn't look away. The air between us was thick with everything we weren't saying. After dinner, I washed dishes. He lingered, leaning against the counter, his presence a quiet challenge. "It's quiet tonight," I said, desperate to name the silence. "It's not quiet," he replied, voice low. "I can hear your heartbeat." I froze, hands still in the soapy water. He stepped closer, not touching, just close enough for me to feel the heat of him. "I'm not trying to make this weird," he said. "I know you're married. I respect that, but I can't stop thinking about you." I should have stopped him, reminded him I was his stepmother, that this was a line we could not cross. But instead I turned, looked into his eyes, and saw not a boy, but a man who wanted me. Not just my body me. I dried my hands, walked past him, my shoulder, brushing his chest slow and deliberate. He didn't follow. He didn't have to. The message was clear. That night, David texted to say he'd be staying overnight for work. I poured myself a glass of wine, told myself I was just unwinding. But every creak of the house made my heart race. Ethan walked into the living room, fresh from the shower, in a grey t-shirt and sweatpants. "Want some company?" he asked. I nodded, unable to trust my voice. We sat at opposite ends of the couch, the silence between us alive with possibility. I offered him wine. He accepted. Our fingers brushed again as I handed him the glass. That touch was all it took. "Are you happy?" he asked, his voice cutting through the quiet. I didn't answer right away. My chest tightened, the truth too heavy. "I used to be," I said finally. "Sometimes I still am. But it's routine. I don't feel seen." "I see you," he said, his eyes steady. "I notice everything. Dear viewers of love and tears. What do you think happens next? Do you believe in moments so strong they pull people into danger, even when they know they shouldn't? Share your thoughts below. Your comments might shape the next part of this story. Hey, before we dive in, tell me where you're watching from tonight. Because this one is for anyone who's ever been torn between what's right and what feels alive. The way he noticed me was disarming. The way I bit my lip when I was thinking, the way I laughed, the way I stared out the window like I was waiting for something only I could see. My breath caught. No one had ever seen me like that. Not even David. Ethan leaned closer, his voice low, trembling with restraint. I tried to ignore it, Lauren, tried to do the right thing. But I want you. Not just to have you, but to know you. I don't care how wrong it is. I set my glass down. He did the same. When our lips met, it wasn't rushed. It was slow, deliberate, like two people who'd been waiting forever. His hands found my waist. Mine pressed against his chest, feeling his heart race under my palm as he kissed my neck. I tilted my head back, letting the world fall away. His fingers slipped under my shirt. And I didn't stop him. I wanted him to know me, to feel what I'd been hiding. When it happened, it was deep controlled, his eyes locked on mine. He watched me, guided me, and for the first time in years, I felt whole after we lay together, his hand resting on my stomach. The room warm, heavy. I knew it had changed everything. I knew there was no going back. But I didn't regret it. Not then. Not when his fingers traced my skin. Not when he kissed my shoulder and whispered my name like a prayer. The next morning he was gone when I woke. The sheets still warm beside me. Relief and loss tangled in my chest. Downstairs he was drinking coffee. His smile careful, like he was afraid to break something fragile. We didn't talk about it, but the air was different now, charged with what we'd done. His eyes followed me, his body always half turned toward mine, waiting for a sign. That sign came 3 days later. We were in the living room, pretending to watch TV. He asked if I was okay. I'm not sure I said. That was enough. He took my hand, pulled me close, and this time it wasn't gentle. It was desperate, urgent. Like the days apart had only sharpened the need. I let it happen. Let myself be consumed. But the weight of it began to settle in. This wasn't just physical anymore. It was something deeper, something I couldn't compartmentalize. Ethan started texting me when he wasn't home. Small things, how he missed my smile. A song that reminded him of us. I should have stopped him, but I didn't. He began showing up in ways David never had, fixing things around the house, cooking, when I looked tired. It wasn't a game. It was care. Then he said he didn't want to leave at the end of summer. Not for school, not for anything. Because of you, he said. I froze. You know who I am, I said. You know what this could destroy. I don't care, he said. I'd rather destroy what's fake than walk away from what's real. That night, I cried alone because he was right. My marriage was habit, not love. What I had with Ethan was alive electric, but it was also wrong. The guilt crept in, heavy and relentless. I couldn't look David in the eye. He noticed something was off, asked if I was okay. I lied, said it was work, the heat, anything but the truth. He believed me, and I hated him for it. We got reckless. Stolen moments in the laundry room, the garage late at night in the hallway. Every second alone was a chance we couldn't resist. Ethan started sleeping in my bed when David was away. Not just to touch me, but to hold me to ask about my dreams, my fears, my life before all this. He listened like it mattered. And when he kissed me, it felt like he meant it. But summer was ending. Ethan's classes were starting. He asked what I wanted, really wanted. I couldn't answer. I wanted him, but I didn't know if I could burn my life down to have him. I'll wait, he said. But his voice broke, and I knew he wasn't patient. One night, David came home early. Ethan and I were in the kitchen, not touching, but close enough to raise questions. David froze his eyes, narrowing. I smiled too quickly, said we were cleaning up. He didn't push, but the look he gave me said he saw something. Later, he asked if anything was going on. I said no, and it was the last time I lied without flinching. Ethan left 2 days later. We didn't say goodbye properly, just a hug that lingered. A look that said everything. I watched him drive away from the upstairs window. My hand clutching the curtain, he still texts me. Sometimes I answer, sometimes I don't. It's not over, not really. I don't know if I'll leave David. I don't know if I'll see Ethan again. But I know what I felt. And it was real. Messy, wrong, but real. And that's the part I can't let go of. If you've ever been in a situation like this, caught between what's right and what feels real, let me know in the comments. This is Tinch var Nuachmat, where we tell the stories you're afraid to speak out loud.